Instead of rallying in the battleground states he's trying to win in November, Donald Trump made a detour to Aurora today. The former president held a rally and doubled down on false claims of a citywide takeover by a Venezuelan gang.
We want to get to 9 News anchor Kyle Clark, who was there today to talk a little bit more about the rally and what you heard from those in attendance.
Kim, what we heard from folks in attendance is that they were just thrilled to have Donald Trump here in Colorado in a year in which he is not expected to be competitive in this state. But he's trying to make Aurora one of the centerpieces of his campaign with this false claim that a Venezuelan gang has taken over the city, or as he suggested today, even taken over the state of Colorado. There are a lot of racial undertones to what Trump says about immigrants, poisoning the blood of our country, recently talking about, bad genes in immigrants who kill. And some of those undertones became overtones today because the final speaker to kind of ramp up the crowd before he came out was Stephen Miller. And not many folks may know who Stephen Miller is unless you're really into politics and policy, but he's a senior advisor to the president for years on immigration issues. NPR News described him as the link between white nationalists and the Trump team. And Miller told the crowd to envision building an America without immigrants, basically a place where only people who are naturalized Americans would live.
You have a right to love your neighbors as they are. You have a right to want a country that is of, by, and for Americans and only Americans.
I always say we have the outside enemy, so you can say China, you can say Russia, you can say Kim Jong-un. It's the enemy from within, all the scum that we have to deal with that hate our country. That's a bigger enemy than China.
So who is the scum that Donald Trump describes as the enemy? It's a lot of the familiar lines from his rallies that played back here in Aurora today, right? The scum, is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. The scum are the journalists who were there. I encourage folks to turn around and boo at those of us journalists here. Some of the loudest boos of the day for transgender children. Just loud, thunderous boos for transgender children. So this was clearly, this is Trump's bread and butter, right? It is us versus them. It is the enemy within. Here are the people that are taking down America, and the crowd loved it. I mean, they were absolutely rapturous to his message and hanging on. I wouldn't say hanging on every single word because he spoke for an hour and 15 minutes. As a number of attendees told me walking out, that could have been a lot longer. There were some folks trickling out even from the best seats before it was over, as Trump kind of weaved around from subject to subject, sometimes covering things he had already covered. Other folks told me, you know what, that's just the weave, right? That's the charm. That's the way that he presents information. But it was a very dire picture of a community where even just Republican Mayor Mike Kaufman said a short time ago, it's just not a true depiction of Aurora. But honestly, I think a lot of the people here today knew that because they live here.
Mm-hmm. A lot of strong words for our governor as well. He said that he had some strong words for Governor Polis.
Yep, I know he called him a coward. I think he also called him scum. And he falsely blamed Governor Polis for trying to take him off the Colorado ballot. That was actually a group of Never Trump Republicans and unaffiliated voters who sued to get him off the ballot. That wasn't Governor Polis. But he went through the whole routine. He does this at events where he says, these people will kiss up to me in private. Said that Polis kissed up to him in private, but then says bad things about him publicly. But yeah, there was a definite fixation on Jared Polis, which is interesting, right? Because Jared Polis is not necessarily a figure on the national scene when it comes to Democrats and is not usually taking the brunt of Donald Trump's ire. But since he was here, Polis is the home state Democratic governor, so he certainly got his today.
Yes, he did. Okay. All right. Thank you, Kyle. As Kyle was talking about 10,000 people attended Donald Trump's rally. There were a few counter-protesters here and there, and words were exchanged with Trump supporters outside the Gaylord Rockies resort. Both groups were there to send their own message.
I think they're here to support the guy. I think all these people feel the same way, Yeah. We're here to support the man,
Go Trump, yeah!
Go Trump all day,
Trump has ridiculed Aurora, and we're ashamed of what he said about Aurora and the Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment complexes, which is a complete, utter creation of his own little feeble mind.
You can find continued coverage of Trump's visit to Aurora on 9 News Plus and 9news.com.